Okay, we'll just give a few seconds for everyone to join and we'll make a start. So good to see you on this Thursday evening. Thank you very much. As a panel, I think we're all ready. So we hope it will go smoothly for you. And we hope you can see the chat box. If you've got any questions, you can put your questions in the chat box. Okay, that's good. Right, well, I think we'll make a start. Good evening, everyone. I'm Simon Kendall. I've got the privilege to be chair of Pectus Matters, the charity. And we're a young charity. We've only been in existence 2 years, having met 3 years ago at Royal College of Surgeons for the Pectus event because there was no Pectus care available in England. And we were on a mission to make a difference. And we're delighted in a short space of time, people with very severe Pectus conditions can now have access to surgery. We're delighted there's a research trial, a multi-million research trial that's now fully recruited to show that people with severe Pectus excavatum might benefit from surgery. But we want to get Pectus care equal for everyone and have a model like they have in Scotland, which is the world-class service. We're really disappointed that the NHS decided not to commission care for people with Pectus. It's hidden because it's under a shirt, unlike facial problems or skull problems or limb problems. It's hidden because you can't see the pressure of the sternum on the vital organs in the chest. And it's hidden because you can't see the psychological harm that it causes young people as they grow up and the effects it has on their family and friends. So we want Pectus Matters to be the centre of that community and to improve care and improve experience for people with Pectus. Tonight we are absolutely delighted and thank you Rob and Emma and team at MedicAlert for having this opportunity of being partners with you. You're an experienced charity and we're benefiting from your wisdom. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'd like to introduce the members of the panel, please. So, Rob, can I go to you first?
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Hi, everybody. My name's Rob Burley, and I'm the chief exec of the charity MedicAlert, and I'll tell you more about that charity in a second. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you very much. My name's Emma. I am one of the nurses here at MedicAlert, and I will go into more detail about my role shortly.
Thank you, Ellie.
Hi everyone, my name's Ellie Musgrave and I'm a trustee of Pectus Matters. I'm originally one of Joel Dunning's patients. I had quite serious Pectus excavatum, which was corrected by surgery in 2018. And just a few months after I had my surgery and was realising how amazing the results were, NHS England decommissioned it. And I think the fact that the two things happened so closely together kept me quite engaged in the conversation because I was just gutted that it could ever be taken off the NHS. And that eventually led me to meeting with Simon and the other trustees of the charity in 2023 and setting up Pectus Matters.
Thank you, Ellie. And Joel?
Hello, Joel Dunning, a pectus and thoracic surgeon up here in Middlesbrough. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here talking to MedicAlert. We had the dark days of 2019 to 2023 when all surgery was banned. I'll be honest, and I say some of the reason why we were banned is our own reasons that we weren't providing the best care possible. So now with Pectus Matters and now with expert centres and now with MedicAlert, we're trying to provide the absolute best care we possibly can for all our patients, including making sure everybody knows about the complications and everybody knows how to look after these patients in the 3 years when they've got their bars in. So thank you so much, Simon, for chairing, and Rob and Emma, and thank you, Ellie, for joining as well.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you. So we're going to cover tonight, everyone, is first of all, we're going to hear from Rob and Emma about MedicAlert and the MedicAlert service. We're then going to go to Joel to hear about the value of the medical ID for people who've had Pectus surgery. And then we're going to hear from Ellie about value from a patient's perspective and someone who's had Pectus surgery. And then before the Q&A, we'll finish up with Rob talking about the MedicAlert membership through our partnership together. We hope you can put your questions in the webinar chat, and please, we want an interactive session. So if anything comes up, anything at all, please put your questions in the chat. And if that's not working, put them in the Q&A, but we prefer them in the chat. So Rob, without any more ado, over to you, and thank you again for this opportunity for our charity to be partners with you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Simon. So I'm going to go to the first sort of scary bit of trying to share my screen, and have immediately come onto a copper that I haven't got the slides. So bear with me a second. Sorry, everybody.
We can throw abuse at you while you're doing that. And I want to watch that machine working behind you as well. So
that's wow. This is
just being
wow.
made.
That's see behind the wall here. Here you go. Right, brilliant. So hopefully everyone can see my slides. I can't see anyone now. So if other panelists could confirm,
yes,
they can
we can see them.
Perfect. So yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. So before I sort of dive into introducing MedicAlert, so before I dive into introducing MedicAlert, I just want to say a few words about why I'm so delighted to be partnering with Pectus Matters. So before I joined MedicAlert at the start of last year, I was Director of Care Campaigns and Support at a charity called Muscular Dystrophy UK. And in that charity gained a real insight into the world of rare conditions and living with a condition that maybe that a lot of health professionals just wouldn't ever see in their career. And that meant I got a lot of exposure to what happens in an emergency where someone tries to provide treatment, not fully understanding a condition. And a highlight of my time at MDUK was revamping some of our alert cards at that charity to help health professionals understand how to treat people in an emergency. So as I sort of got my head around what we did at MedicAlert when I joined the team here, really it became very clear to me immediately that rare conditions are an area where there's a particular benefit of MedicAlert where we can really support people. So I'm really, really pleased to be here and partnering with Pectus Matters. So just a brief history. Simon talks about Pectus Matters being a young charity. We're pretty old now. We're over 60 years old. So we've been around since 1964, and that really gives us a huge sort of heritage and pedigree. So we were invented by a family in California who had a daughter who was had a sort of severe allergies, and the idea of how they could ensure that she could go about and live independently, but also have information about her allergy on her person, sort of led to the MedicAlert model. So which I'll talk about in a minute in terms of how that's developed and evolved. Because we've been around for so long doing what we do, and we've built some really trusted relationships and partnerships with other charities, but also with the NHS, and we're globally recognised. So 24/7, 365 days of the year, wherever you are in the world, you can access our service through the emergency, or a health professional can access our service and get information on you to help them treat you in an emergency. And we have a language line that means any language. I think about 200 languages are covered by our language line. So the ID is what we're really, you might be something you're aware of. We'll talk about that in a minute. So the ID that people wear on their person that just signals that they have a condition and that there's some information about them relevant to a paramedic or first responder or another medical point. That's our entry point. But really, there's so much more behind the service, which is why it's particularly relevant and valuable, particularly to people with rare conditions. So actually, the tip of the iceberg is the ID. Every one of our members has a digital medical record, and you set that up and update that yourself with our support. And that's really where you decide what information you want shared in an emergency about your condition, about your allergies, but also importantly, health professionals you're under the care of, your next of kin details, emergency contacts. So the digital medical record is really the key part. Because we're a charity, that's really opened up. That means we're here as a kind of value-based organisation, and we're here we need to obviously meet our running costs, and we are hugely grateful for donations that come our way, and that's why we normally charge a fee for membership, although under this partnership that's being funded by Pectus Matters for the first year. I'll talk about that shortly. But really, being a charity means we're able to kind of have those conversations and spearhead those partnerships. I've talked about the ID. We're NHS recommended by different parts of the NHS, and different health professionals sort of recommend us to their patients, so they see the value of us. And when paramedics are trained, medical ID is a part of their training. And also through the MedicAlert service, you can have an advocate on your system. So if you are supporting a child or a vulnerable relative or a vulnerable loved one, you can be set up as an advocate on their service. So you can make changes to the digital record on their behalf if that's more appropriate. And I think one of the things that I would sort of draw on is one of the partnerships away from Pectus Matters. One of my favourite partnerships is our partnership we developed with the Royal College of Paramedics. So we're really ensuring that we're embedded with emergency medicine and first responders to really make sure that there's a smooth link up between the service we provide and what happens in an emergency. I thought this quote from one of our members, I won't read it out in full, but this is from one of our members with a rare condition. And I think it really sums up the value of MedicAlert to people with rare conditions in particular. And Simon talks about sort of hidden conditions and the visibility of a condition. This really sums up, I think, in terms of people not recognizing that someone may have a certain need. And that's really why MedicAlert is here, to make sure that that information is readily and swiftly available. We're often asked about data security, as hugely understandably as we should be. So we're in a funny position in that people share their information with us so that we share it on when appropriate. But we're obviously really rigorous and very passionate about data security. So a key thing to say is that we only store the data that you want us to store and that you want shared in an emergency. So we don't scoop your data from anywhere else. You're in charge of what you store with us. We have rigorous data security and protocols in place. So we have Cyber Essentials, and we're moving to Cyber Essentials Plus later this year. Our database is very, very secure and is sort of monitored closely and backed up regularly. And we also adhere to things like GDPR, and we have a regular review with an external data protection officer. And then in terms of when someone contacts us via the emergency line, there's processes in place that make sure we only share your information with a health professional. So no one can just call up and get information on you. So that's a bit about our data security. Something that I'm very proud of and is really unique amongst medical ID services. So we're the only charity in the UK that runs this sort of medical ID service. We're also the only one that has nurses on the team, and you'll meet Emma more in a minute to talk more about her role. But really, that means that we are able to really take a personalised approach and making sure that we work with our partners to become experts in the conditions that we cover. So a key part of Emma's role is making sure that she can be on hand to support members when they're setting up a profile if they've got a question about a condition that might be changing or what they should most capture on the ID. I have the pleasure once a week of sitting next to Emma in the office, and most of her day is spent talking to our members and helping them through setting up queries about their conditions or updating their accounts, etc. And I think that is the perfect time to hand over to Emma. So I shall stop sharing now and hand over to Emma. So Emma, I'll just hand it straight to you, I think.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to share my screen, if I can. Okay, so hoping everybody can see my screen. I can no longer see, nobody can see my screen. So things, just bear with me, sorry. Hopefully everybody can now see my screen. So you have joined MedicAlert. This is what your record would look like. Now, everybody will have a unique membership number, which is up here. And this is what we call your dashboard. So everybody that joins through Pectus Matters will have this prompt here, which is just prompting you to upload your latest version of the guidelines that are on the Pectus Matters website. This link here, by clicking Learn More, will take you to the Pectus Matters website, where you can then upload that under Documents, which is this section here. We'll get back to that section in a moment, but we've got all of your member details here. So your name, your date of birth, your email address. This is really important for us to be able to communicate with you. So if ever I've got a question and I can't get through to you on your mobile or your landline, I will drop you an email. You also get reminders for renewals, that sort of thing, through your email. And we send you confirmations of your jewellery and your wallet card orders as well through your email. Obviously your address, and then your communications, so whether you want to receive emails from us and that sort of thing. Your contact section, so you can have as many contact, I think it's up to 10 contacts you can have here, and you can have a couple of different phone numbers, an email address, the relationship to you, and then we've also got this primary contact section, So you can have one primary contact, which is normally our first port of call. So they are the people that if you're in a medical emergency, we would try to contact them first if we were to get a phone call. And if they can make changes to your record. So like Rob mentioned earlier, this is the advocate section. So if you want somebody to be an advocate, you just click this box here, and it means that they can make changes to your record at any time. And then if we go through to your medical record, so this is just a test record, and we've got different types of wording. So it's really important that all of our members can have records that they feel comfortable with. I always say to our members, your record is exactly what you want it to be. Like Rob said earlier, you need to feel comfortable that everything that's on your record you are happy with. You feel confident that if you're in a medical emergency and medical professionals were to call us needing more information, you've got all of the information on here that you would want handed over in an emergency. So you can link documents, which again we'll get to in a second, and we've made it as simple as possible. So we've got the condition section, history of, any allergies or anaphylaxis that you might have. We've also got avoid. So if you've got a medication that you have an adverse reaction to, but it's not been classified as an allergy, but you don't want it ever again, you can say that you would like to avoid it. And then your list of medication. And any miscellaneous, so anything that doesn't quite fit into any of those categories, but you still want it to be on your medical record. So, for example, here we've got has a dog at home. So we've got some members that if they were in a medical emergency, they're the only person at home, and they've left their dog at home for half an hour whilst they pop to the shops. They're in a medical emergency and they want somebody to know that that dog is left at home on its own. So that's the sort of thing that you can also have on your record. The NHS info tab is for your doctors, your hospitals, and any specialists. So your doctors can be anything from GPs to consultants to private doctors to NHS doctors, and then hospitals, again, is any sort of hospitals that you wish to have on your record. And then your medical documents. So here I've popped on the Pectus Matters CPR guidance. And every document that gets uploaded comes through to me to check, which is where you've got this review tick, which shows that I have reviewed it. I've checked that it links up to your record, it's readable, it's safe, and we can access that quickly in an emergency. And I've linked it to the Pectus Bar in situ requires forceful CPR section of your medical record. So if we had a phone call in a medical emergency, that document is easy to see all over the record. Now, I always say to members, as I say, that this record is exactly what you want it to be. So everything that gets changed on a record always comes through to either myself or Sarah to check. And if we've got any queries with that, we will always give you a call. And on the jewellery, we can be much more precise. So we would always recommend safest wording that we see fit in an emergency. But equally, you've got to feel happy with the jewellery wording that you've got. You know, you're the person that's wearing that jewellery at the end of the day. So if ever you're unsure on jewellery wording, you can absolutely give us a call and we can discuss that. But at the end of the day, you need to feel comfortable with what's going on with your jewellery. So long as it's safe, it's accurate, and you're happy with it, that's the main thing. Everything comes through to one of us nurses to check, whether that's a jewellery order, a wallet card order, a document upload, or something that you've changed or taken off of your medical record. So that is the medical record in a nutshell. If you've got any questions, pop it in the chat box, and I'm more than happy to answer. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and hopefully it's all going to carry on working.
That was excellent, Emma. Thank you. Really whistle stop, but super clear as well. So thank you. And I'm sure there'll be questions about that later on. Joel, can we move on to your presentation about the value of the ID for people who've had pectus surgery? I think you're very good at consenting your patients and making them aware how serious the operation is and how major it is, but it'll be lovely to hear your presentation now.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So thank you so much for MedicAlert for coming to help us. I just wanted to set the scene a little bit. I think most people on this call will be people that know a huge amount of about Pectus and really are seeking perhaps the Nuss procedure. But just to sort of wind back a little bit, we had the operation stopped in 2019. So insane people in NHS England felt it was a cosmetic operation that didn't compress your heart. They were the only heartless people. They didn't know what was behind your sternum. And this was one of the first people that I had to refuse to do surgery on. This poor girl, Autumn Bradley, her sternum was only 25 millimeters from her spine, compressing her heart. She used to love running. She used to be brilliant at running, and she got more and more short of breath. And so we fought for her. She was only 11 when she'd been turned down for surgery. It took us about 3 years to get her the operation. We went to Westminster Hall, and finally she did get her surgery. But Simon Kendall, with some of his amazing superstar colleagues, got us an event in 2022. This is Aman Kuna and Narain Mojani and Lynn Evans, and we had over 100 people to the Royal College of Surgeons fighting for the rights of Pectus, which was absolutely amazing event. Lynn Evans and 44 people wrote their accounts of how bad and life-changing it is to have Pectus, called Pectus and Me, which Simon Kendall, who is an ex-president of the SCTS, now hosts on his website, the SCTS website, and it's free for everybody. I do encourage you to have a look at that if you really want to know how this impacts people's lives. We really had an amazing group of people that came together to really fight for the right of Pectus people. This culminated in a guideline document for best practice in England for chest wall abnormalities, supported by our international societies. And all these amazing people on here were co-authors, including Simon and many of his colleagues. And this now, we hope, sets the stage for what is best care if you have Pectus. This is actually free full text, so even if you're not a doctor, you can actually go and read what you should have so for treatment, and this includes carinatum, excavatum, conservative treatments, psychological treatments, as well as having the operation. So I do encourage you to look at it. We opened a pathway because suddenly NHS realized they'd made a mistake. There was egg on their face, so they had to open up a pathway to allow some people in. And we're very proud to have a national weekly meeting where these amazing experts get together, and if somebody's severe enough, we can now say they can have surgery on the National Health Service. We were commissioned to do 20 a year. We're now doing 250 a year through this system, which I'm really pleased to say right now. But for what about those people that we say no to because they're very strict criteria? Well, exactly as Simon says, we set up a £2 million funded trial called Restore. I'm delighted to say this is the graph of what we were meant to be recruiting. We were meant to finish in July 2026. We finished about 40% earlier than we should have, 10 months earlier, because so many people needed surgery. This was randomized, but you're randomized to early or late surgery. And also the really severe people accepted on the NHS are being collected as well. And we're really ahead. So we are going to bring back Pectus to the NHS in full, much more liberally, and we're reporting in 18 months. So any of you who are out there who have been in the Restore trial or are in the Restore trial right now, thank you so much. It's really, really important. And we have got to make your physical function much better at a year, then it comes back on the NHS. Super important when you're answering the questions at 12 months. Now, what have we done? We've gone around the world. We've met the people around the world that do insane numbers of operations. I've done about 400. That panel have done 20,000 operations. So we're linked in to people that do the very best surgery in the world. And so we're teaching English surgeons to do that better now. We've got some 7 golden rules now that guide us. And now we believe really we do much, much safer surgery, higher quality surgery than we did, which is brilliant. But there are complications to surgery. The Nuss procedure should not be regarded as a trivial undertaking. There are other things you can do. Conservative treatment, just implants. But a Nuss procedure is a big deal. It's a big operation. You get bars in your chest. We collapse both lungs. It takes 3 hours. And actually, this was highlighted no more poignantly than Oliver Rosenwood. Now, Oliver Rosenwood's a lovely guy. He's very tall. He's got Marfans. But after surgery, it went very well. But a month later, he suffered not a single pneumothorax, but a double pneumothorax. Both his lungs collapsed. And in fact, he collapsed on the floor and required CPR. Now, he was in London, and it was a tribute to the London paramedics ambulance service that they resuscitated him successfully. And he's now made a 100% recovery. He's met his ambulance paramedics at the Royal Free, and he's recently swum 50 laps in an Olympic pool. But this made us mean we've got to lean into safety. You know, if you've got Nuss bars in you, there are some very important things that are different if a paramedic comes to you. So we've reviewed all the evidence with all these co-authors. This is our worldwide group. We've got a poster there, and then we've looked at every single piece of evidence that exists. So the big one, it's really difficult to massage somebody with bars in because they're metal bars. And so studies show it's about 7 times harder to press to do that 5 centimeter compressions. So some people go around saying it's so hard, why should you do CPR? Well, we answered that very conclusively. Of course you should. There are some strange rumors out there about what about doing abdominal compressions. Well, we've said no, don't do that. You need really forceful compressions, and your paramedics need to know to go very forcefully. Some people have recommended some other really strange things, like putting people on their front to press on their back because the bars aren't there. We think that's not correct. And then if mechanical CPR, which is a clever device that can compress the chest, is available, that's really, really good idea. Just before I go through a few of our other recommendations, this is quite a doctory document. I just want you to understand that there have been 70,000 Nuss procedures in the world, and we could only find 7 people who are arrested in hospital and 9 people that are arrested out of hospital at all. So this is super rare. Don't think that this happens to everybody. You know, 9 out of 70,000 people arrest out of hospital. So this is just so that if the worst should happen, or maybe you have a car crash. A lot of people know about this. What about if I need shocking? Where do I put the pads? Because surely the electricity is conducted round the bar. Well, that is a relevant point and theoretically is an issue. But actually, with the 7 cases we've reviewed, quite a few did get anterolateral shocks successfully. So we just say that change to AP pads if anterolateral is not working. It's not that it would never work. It's just if they aren't working, have a change of positions with your shocking pads. This is some in-hospital recommendations that we've got for our in-hospital teams. These are quite technical. We can do a lot more in hospital because we keep you safe after the surgery. And so we now recommend that. That's what that poster was about. And then there are a few things for not arrest. So if you are really short of breath, we just want people to remember both your lungs can go down because the left and right chest is connected. Nobody else's chests are connected like that unless you've had a Nuss procedure. So we just like to raise that issue, and that's important on the MedicAlert information. 2 other things that can make people very unwell after surgery, again, super rare, is a pulmonary embolus. We've only got 2 cases of that ever, but that's an important cause of possible arrest. And then some people could get bleeding that can be delayed, again, very rarely. But tell your paramedics that that is a possibility, because that means if they give you loads and loads of fluids and think about it, then they can keep you safe. We got some recommendations if someone needed to put a chest drain in, and that's basically just think about it. Look at the X-ray of where the bars are. We think everybody should have a photo of their chest X-ray on their phones, and so you need to just be careful where you put these chest drains. And then this is the most important 2 slides. At the end of our guideline, we've got a patients and family information that is agreed by the World Society of Pectus Surgeons. This is what we think you should know, word for word. So this will be on the Pectus Matters websites, and this goes through everything. So press up to 7 times more forcefully for CPR. Consider mechanical CPR if you've got access to that. Do AP pads for shocking if the anterolaterals are working, but don't worry too much about that. Remember that pneumothorax is a cause of an arrest, a pulmonary embolus is a cause, and bleeding is a cause. And then if you're phoning ambulance for anything, even if you've had a car crash, tell the paramedics you've got metal bars in their chest. You know, if somebody wants you to have an emergency MRI of the spine, they want to know you've got metal in your chest. Interestingly, in England, there is a system called an urgent care plan. You can go to your GP, they can register an urgent care plan, and if an ambulance is called to you, it automatically flags up on the screen of the ambulance ambulance. That's just something to remember. And MedicAlert might know about that as well. But obviously, MedicAlert is really important as well. And as I say, get an X-ray of your bars on your phone as well. And this is the final wording we're giving to MedicAlert. They've got different sizes of disc. They've got some smaller ones and some larger ones. I think either's appropriate because, as you'll hear, you can then reference and phone them. But for the small ones, Pectus bar in place. So Pectus bar, do CPR forcefully, and defib AP. If you've got a necklace which has got a little bit more space on it, you might want to say Pectus behind sternum, CPR needs more force, consider mechanical CPR, defib AP, and then consider the common causes of being ill, pneumothorax, PE, chest bleeding. So thank you very much for listening to me. Obviously, thank you for Pectus Matters once again. Do check their website out. We're also Instagramming a lot. And we've got an event on June the 27th, a big Pectus Matters party. Do come along and also become a friend of Pectus Matters. It's super important. It supports Ellie and Simon and everybody. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, Joel. Absolutely brilliant. And thank you for that perspective of actually how few people have had cardiac arrests, considering how, 70-odd thousand have had the operations. That's really helpful to get that perspective. Thank you. Excellent. Ellie, can we come on to you and why the MedicAlert bracelet is going to be important for Pectus patients?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Simon. So just wanted to echo a little bit of what Simon said there and what Joel said. As someone who's had Pectus surgery myself, I remember when I had my pre-op with Joel did this thing that surgeons love to do, where they show you a video of the inside of someone's body, or like what the incisions look like and what the video of the heart and the lungs is, which is actually quite scary when you're a patient, thinking that's what they're going to do to me. And afterwards, I went and I signed my consent form, and on that consent form is a list of risks of things that could possibly happen. And the majority of those things, it was 2% and lower of the chances of these things ever happening. And so it's really important to make people aware that there are some risks involved in this surgery, but the risk is very low. So the value of MedicAlert to patients who have had Pectus surgery. As Joel spoke a little bit about Ollie, we did have a situation arise where a patient from Middlesbrough was down in London and required a first responder to attend to them. And I believe that Joel was on the other end of the phone trying to talk to a first responder. And that situation there, it worked, and we're really glad it worked, but there's a scenario in which it might not have worked. And I think there's something quite individual about Pectus surgery that means that something like a MedicAlert bracelet is actually very valuable. So there aren't many hospitals in the UK who are performing Pectus surgery. The majority of people who are having Pectus surgery are travelling out of area, sometimes many hundreds of miles. And that means that when they're being discharged and they're going home, whether they've got tons of information from their surgeon or very little, they are quite isolated from their surgical team, their surgeon and the whole team. That's the physios, the psychologists, anyone who might have been dealing with them. And when they've returned home, if they have questions or concerns, that team who's helping them out might be hundreds of miles away and many hours away. And this is certainly the case for me when I had my surgery. So I had my surgery at the end of October in Middlesbrough, and I'm from Carlisle, which is about 2.5-3 hours away. And when I was discharged to home, I started to have some complications. Now, the whole reason that I was going to Middlesbrough and not my local hospital is because my local hospital had no idea what a Pectus condition was, nor what any of the surgeries were. And so when I attended my GP in A&E, they had no clue what was going on with me or what I'd had done. I remember having an X-ray in A&E, and I could hear all 3 radiologists gasp behind the little plastic screen. And they went, "Have you been in a car crash?" And I thought, well, if I'd just been in a car crash, would I be standing up here having this X-ray? But there's a certain amount of explaining that you have to be able to do when you're in that acute situation. And thankfully for me, I was well enough that I was able to communicate with my local hospital. I was able to give them Joel's details and they were able to communicate. And I was sent back over to Middlesbrough and I had treatment for bilateral pleural effusions, for the fluid that had gathered on my lungs, and the rest of my recovery was problem free. But we have to also acknowledge that there are situations like Ollie's where time was of the essence and he wasn't necessarily able to communicate exactly what he'd had done right there at that moment. And I think for Pectus patients, where the majority of us are having to travel so far and are so isolated from our surgeons, having a medical ID is really valuable. Particularly in those first few weeks and months when you're recovering, where you are more at risk of having some of these more acute complications. And that is why we have chosen as a charity to not only fund a medical ID bracelet, but to also fund a 1-year membership to MedicAlert to support patients when they're most at need of that first responder support. So that's it from me, Simon.
Right, Eddie, thank you. There's lots of bonuses of being part of this charity, but one of them is being able to hear you speak at all these events. So thank you very much, because you give a really clear message. It's wonderful, so thank you. Thank you also to everyone putting questions in the chat. I think we're answering some of them as we go along. Some of them are waiting for later presentations. But as chair, I will try to make sure that we don't miss any out. So thank you. Rob, can we come on to you to talk about the membership through the Pectus Matters partnership, please?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Simon. So yeah, I can answer quite a few of the questions that come through, which is just the mechanics of joining and how it works. But I think firstly, just to reflect back on what Joel and Eddie have shared, I think really encapsulates to a great degree kind of the value we bring to members, all of our members actually. So we really hope that no one has to use our membership in terms of that bit of the emergency. So what we find, just like see behind me, kind of talk about peace of mind. Actually, what our members tell us is it's not so much that they're expecting to have an emergency, it's that they know that they have that peace of mind that should it happen, there is really quick access for a paramedic to their record. And the information that Joel shared was absolutely fascinating. But the chances of a paramedic knowing that and having that to hand without MedicAlert is that'd be so difficult. So that's why through our 24/7 emergency line, so the back of the ID is your member number, the basic information, and then also the emergency line number, and that's what the paramedic calls. And then our trained operatives on the emergency line then talk the paramedic through that information. So having that all on your profile is why that's really key. So they can really have all the information they need to make the right treatment decisions in that emergency moment. And then as they hand you over onto emergency care, and also therefore can get in contact with your specialist, because on your record, particularly if you're unable to communicate at that point, the details of your specialists are there as well. So I'll quickly share my screen again. So no more heckling, Joel, if it goes wrong again. Just for a couple of quick slides on the practicalities. Here we go. So yeah, really, we're so delighted that and so thankful that Pectus Matters are as I said, are funding a year's membership and a piece of the medical ID. So it's really simple process, and we'll email everybody who signed up to the webinar about this over the next couple of days, and also be sharing the recording of the webinar. But essentially, the first step is to jump onto the Pectus Matters website and apply for the post-op support pack. And within that, you'll get the information about how to come to our website and start signing up and making sure that you get the full funded package. So there's 2 website addresses there that you can click onto, but we will send all the details. I think Jonathan is also going to put something in the chat as well. And then essentially you join MedicAlert and you don't have to pay anything at all, and you get to choose your ID. So we've got a wide range of IDs to suit sort of everybody's needs and styles. The partnership funds one of our kind of our sort of core essential IDs, but you can put the fund, you can top that up if you want to have one of our kind of more fancy IDs. We actually have IDs that are precious metal IDs. So some of our members, I'd love to say loads of our members, but some of our members actually have gold or silver jewelry as well. So if you wanted to have a bit more of a kind of a glitzy one, you can definitely do that as well. Part funded by the program, but this program will give you access to a funded ID as well as the membership. So that's how to do it. Don't worry about remembering all the details. As I say, we will email the simple step-by-step process, but your first port of call is to go to the Pectus Matters website and apply for the postdoc pack, I think is the right thing to say there. So I should stop sharing my screen now, and then so I think we can move on to the Q&A.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Ellie, just before we do that, you've been so instrumental in thinking about this partnership and what should be in the postdoc pack. Do you want just to share the other items that are in the postdoc pack as well?
Yeah.
Not share, but just talk about them.
Yeah. So as Joel had mentioned about Ollie, it was Ollie and a couple of other patient cases that kind of put this thought in our head about how can we as a charity better support patients after they've had surgery. And we actually did a questionnaire last year and of patients who've had surgery since 2023, and the responses were that out of everything they felt least supported afterwards, and it was the aftercare where they didn't feel that they had the knowledge that they probably could have had. And that was the inspiration behind the post-op support pack, the main component of that being the medical ID bracelet. But we also wanted to create some resources because, like I was mentioning before, once you've gone home and you've been discharged from surgery, unless you're very local, you kind of are isolated from your surgical team. And we wanted to make sure, because we know that not every hospital gives away exactly the same things or tells their patients exactly the same thing, that we were giving a good body of information to anyone who wanted it. So as well as the medical ID bracelet and the 1-year membership to MedicAlert, we are also providing some CPR guidance, some physiotherapy advice, which has been written by a team of physiotherapists in the UK, and a list of early warning signs for complications, which isn't necessarily anything terrifying that Joel's mentioned. It could be simple wound infection or a temperature, because often you're not quite sure, do I go to my GP? Do I have to ring my specialist? And it's been quite important for us to put that together, because we've identified from our questionnaire that actually not everyone does feel 100% supported and like they have all the tools in their toolkit once they've had surgery. And Pectus surgery is big surgery. It can be a long recovery, and feeling like you have a bit more knowledge and a few more resources, I think is very important. But yes, it's a very special project that we've been working on. I'm very excited.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you so much. And as a charity, a young charity, we've got some funds. We've got ambitions, obviously, to get more funds. But we are giving this post-op pack to people. And what we hope is that the people who think they can afford £5 a month for a year, so a total of £60, will join Pectus Matters as a friend for at least a year. If they can't afford it, they can't afford it, and we will still give the MedicAlert membership and the bracelet. But we also hope that for those who can afford it, they'll become a friend, and that is basically the cost of what we're giving people, and it will cover the cost if they can afford it. So thank you. So can we go to the questions, please? And Roger Thomas, you very kindly mentioned the good idea of having a business card size of your chest X-ray with you for airport security. And Joel, Ellie, have you got any comments about having those images on your person and how the different ways you can do it?
I mean, I have my my X-ray on my phone with me all the time. And it actually wasn't for emergency reasons. It was because it was really so much easier for me to show a picture of my surgery than explain what it was, because people were just a little bit flabbergasted when I told them. So that was the original reason I had it on my phone. But actually, it worked out that when I went abroad for the first time last year, I felt a lot safer having that photo on me, because even though I knew I wasn't going to set off any alarms because none of my metal bars are magnetic, I knew that if I went through a body scanner, that they would pick up that I had metal implants, and I wanted to be able to show my X-ray as evidence of me having had a surgical procedure. So I always carry my X-ray with me, and I know that that would be helpful and accessible if there was an emergency situation where someone needed it.
Just to quickly mention as well, if you were to become a MedicAlert member, you can have your copy of your X-ray uploaded as a document, and that can be handed over in an emergency situation as well if we were to get a phone call. We do also have a language line, so if you're travelling abroad and you were in a medical emergency, we can still access your vital medical information if needed.
Emma, can I ask, for people who are with you and have their details with you, do you keep the passwords the same for them forever, or do you make them change them every year and put lots of extra special characters and stuff in? How easy do you make it?
So accessing members' records is down to that member to be able to access their own record. In terms of medical professionals being able to access that record in an emergency, we don't just hand over information to Joe Bloggs down the street. You know, there's quite a strict security process that we go through. We ask for medical PIN numbers and that sort of thing, so GMC numbers, NMC numbers, paramedic numbers and that sort of thing. So there is quite a strict sort of rigmarole that we go through, whilst making it obviously as quick as possible, given it is an emergency situation. But obviously we want your data to be secure, so change your password as much as possibly you can, just to make sure that you know that information on your record is as secure as possible.
Thank you very much. Any other questions that I've missed in the chat, guys? Because I don't think I've missed any. There's been a big conversation about not doing chondrostomies.
I was just going to say one little thing about having your X-ray. Some people say, "Do you think I can have my X-ray? I'm allowed to have it." It's your absolute right to have an X-ray. Insist on getting an image of your X-ray. It's you, after all. So, and I think everyone should have one of their X-rays for 1,000 different reasons, knowing what's inside them. But it's your absolute right to have your X-rays and CTs. So do please do that. There was also a really good question a bit earlier about, you know, how do I teach my partner or colleague how to do CPR? So it's a really good question, because obviously you go to classes about how to do basic life support. Really, you just got to do it as hard as you possibly can. So you know, there is no upper limit. You can't do it too hard. So you do it absolutely as hard as you can. And just the one other thing about that is that's going to be super, super tiring. So if you're doing it as hard as you possibly can, you probably need to get a friend and do some alternating every 2 minutes. But you won't be able to go on a BLS course to learn 7 times forcible CPR. But that would be my recommendation for that one.
Thank you, Joel. And certainly, as Ellie said in the post-op pack, there is a list of the early warning signs, and we want the Pectus centres to be more accessible and more responsive to people who've got early warning signs, which we hope will not let people suffer and get to the point of this arrest situation. So that's we want to drive that quality improvement around the country if possible. Emma, Rob, just what's the experience of the first responders finding the bracelet? So because you've got all the knowledge about this, it's one of the questions that's been written down.
So the logo that we have is an internationally recognised logo. Paramedics are trained to look for that logo. The idea is that the bracelets and the necklaces are kept on pulse points. So you're in a medical emergency, you're unable to speak for yourself, a medical professional is going to check your pulse, whether it's on your neck or on your wrist. The idea is that they then see the MedicAlert logo, they have a look at the disc, they read what's on there. If they need any further information, they can give us a call. The emergency line is imprinted on the disc, as well as your membership number. The emergency line is held specifically for emergencies, and it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can call us, go through the security check, access the medical record. Any emergency call that gets made gets followed up by either myself or my colleague Sarah 2 weeks after the event, just to check whether the record needed updating, that sort of thing. We just have a little chat about how the member is, if there's anything that we can do to support them, and take it from there. But the logo is an internationally recognised logo, so the idea is that medical professionals are aware of what our logo means, and they can then act accordingly.
And just I just add to that, Simon, as well. As a charity, one of our objectives is actually to improve education of health professionals about emergency medicine as well. So actually, a lot of our work is about outreach into the emergency medicine professions. That's why our partnership with the Royal College of Paramedics is so important to us in terms of helping train paramedics to look for the ID in the first place and reinforce that training. And we're also working with, we've been talking to St John Ambulance and also the Association of Ambulance Chief Executives to really make sure that looking for a medical ID is a key part of what happens when you arrive on scene, particularly if someone is unable to communicate themselves, so you can get that head start.
Very good. And Rob, Emma, and we've got someone from Italy who's joining in the questions, for instance, but have you got a sense for the penetration around, it's an international charity, MedicAlert, but are there any dark spots on the world map, or is it pretty universal?
I think knowledge. I'll try this first ever. The big hotspots for having a MedicAlert in country are kind of America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Britain. But actually, it's universally recognised. So there are MedicAlerts in all the countries as well. But also, there doesn't have to be a MedicAlert in the country you're in, because the number on your bracelet is contactable. And then as soon as a paramedic or a first responder in a different language starts speaking, our operatives are trained to then hand over to our language line, which I think is 200 languages. So very quickly you can be connected to somebody, or the health professional will find someone in their language who can help translate the record. I've just seen interesting to help with that. I've just seen a question come in about a barcode. So actually we'll be rolling out QR codes this year on the IDs as well to help improve that. So as well as the emergency number, making sure that for those who want to have a sort of QR code option, that's available as well, to kind of make sure that that's even more accessible as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rob. I'm just reading that Holly's writing the children's illustrated book about Pectus, so we would love to team up with you, Holly, on that. That's something that we've talked about, and we'd love to do that. So thank you. Okay, right, everyone, it's nearly 25 past. There's no questions coming in. Just like some final comments, please, from the panel, and then come to you penultimately, Rob, and then we'll wrap up if that's all right. Ellie, can I come to you first? Any final words you'd like to say?
This is kind of like a little brainchild, a little tiny nugget of an idea that I had a little while ago, and Simon and Joel have supported me through trying to develop that. And then as we reached out to MedicAlert, they've been fantastic in helping us put this in place and making it a reality, really. So I'm very thankful to them all for that. And I think it's just something that's at the core of what we're doing as a charity to support patients, and this is a very patient-focused, patient-centred idea, and we just hope that it's as successful as we hope that it is.
Lovely, thank you, Ellie. Joel?
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful to have this intervention. We're trying to make surgery the safest we possibly can. I think this MedicAlert badge is just really good for emergencies, but actually do remember the Pectus Matters perioperative care plan is going to be absolutely amazing for everybody. You know, I totally agree that the Pectus Matters survey really showed the things that we weren't doing well enough as doctors. We were just doing your plumbing and kicking you out. And so Pectus Matters now have this amazing perioperative care plan. We're very grateful to their support. Our Facebook group is super supportive. They've been telling people having the Nuss procedure about all sorts of things, wedge-shaped pillows, drinks bottles with long tubing on it, all sorts of things. We've got a nutritionist that's going to give us lots of information about vitamins to support people. You know, I think our community is going to do such a great job of helping people through those difficult first few months, because it is difficult undergoing a Nuss procedure. You get through the end of it. I call it 6 weeks of winter, 6 weeks of spring, and then 6 weeks of summer. So Pectus Matters and this resource pack is going to really help everybody through it. And so I'm grateful to everybody here, and do reach out to get that perioperative care pack if you're coming up to surgery.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you. Emma, anything you want to wrap up that, please?
Just a massive thank you. It's going to be really good to work with you guys at Pectus Matters. And if anybody ever needs any help with their record or with wording for their jewellery, or even if you don't know which piece of jewellery it is that you want to choose, you can always give us a call. There's a team of us that are always more than happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you. Joel, there's a question of how the wording would be different for a Ravitch procedure. If you could just do some quick typing, that would be really useful. And Rob, the MedicAlert leader, how would you like just to bring it to a close?
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Well, thanks. We're so grateful for the opportunity to work with you, and Ellie, thank you so much for sort of reaching out to us in the first place. It's so great to be here at the end of the journey of your idea, going from this, the idea to coming to the end product. We're looking forward to working with you, hopefully for a long period of time, and work together to get the support needed for the community. Thank you to everyone who's joined us. It's great to have a chance to tell you about what's available to you. And yeah, as Emma said, we pride ourselves the fact that we're sort of very member orientated. So we're here for people and we're here for partnerships. So tonight, as we brought those two things together, so do just get in contact if you just want any information at all. And Emma or one of her colleagues will definitely be able to support you. We're really looking forward to working with Simon, Eddie, and the team. And it's great to have met Joel tonight.
Thank you, Rob. I love your logo behind you there. If you can move just to one side, but peace of mind you can wear anywhere. And if we can help not only the patients but the families and the friends, and have that reassurance and that peace of mind, it's a superb venture to do together. So I'll draw it to a close there. Thank you again to everyone for joining. I think the panelists might stay on just for a quick debrief, but have a lovely evening, all the rest of you, and for those of you coming up to your surgery, may it go well for you and you get the great result that you deserve. So thank you. Good night.